Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home. We have the one, the only, Mr. Jesse James Fain, outlaw author himself.
Hey everyone, I am Jesse James Fain. I go by the Outlaw Author because the branding writes itself. I write pretty much anything that has a fist fight, a sword fight, or a gunfight because I studied all those things in real life, and that's what I like to do.
All right, and next we have the one, the only, Mr. Michael LaVoice.
Hello, hey guys, it's Michael LaVoice, author of Galaxy's Most Wanted and most recently Gladius Leagues, two series that I have out now. I write primarily space opera and military sci-fi. Even my space opera has a military sci-fi flair to it, so I kind of guess my kind of main vein is military sci-fi. But I also dabble in fantasy and even occasionally romantasy.
No.
Believe that.
So do you write science fiction romance where you got like the blue alien man chest on the cover?
No, actually, it was a challenge from William Allen Webb because I hang out with a group of writers that hang out with him every other week. And we're putting together an anthology, and the challenge was to write in a genre none of us were comfortable with, and we chose romantasy as that genre. So everybody had to write a romantasy short story. And dude, I was flailing, man. I was lost. I consulted 4 authors who write romance for a living. One of them, our very own Jana S. Brown, and crafted this story and got the stamp of approval from these 4 authors, including Jana. So I feel confident that it's going to be a good one.
I'm just saying AI in coloring our aliens with their chest is going to put Fabio out of business.
Oh, no.
He's old now, man. He looks more like Arnold now than he did than Fabio back in the day. So that ain't saying much.
Wasn't he the one that got hit in the face by the bird on a roller coaster at one point in time?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. That would be so fitting.
Oh, y'all leave poor Fabio alone.
I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe it's not steroids. Shut up. Anyway.
All right, I'm looking that up real quick. All right. Italian model Fabio Lazzani was hit in the face by a goose while riding Apollo's Chariot roller coaster at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Virginia. So I was right.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's rough.
That's about an hour north of me, Williamsburg.
That reminds me of a line from William Gibson where he took a duck to the face at 200 knots.
Oh, that's rough. A whole goose too. Like that's no small bird. That's not.
That's a big bird.
No, that's yeah. Oof.
It was March.
Was it a Canadian geese? Those things are deadly.
It just says a goose while riding the roller coaster on March 31st, 1999.
It had to be a Canadian goose.
It was 1999. So apparently he did not understand when they say party like it's 1999. He took it the wrong way, clearly.
I mean, that's a hell of a party taking a goose to the face.
Man.
Golf on a goose. So goose hits you in the face. But see, the Apollo's Chariot was the one that was like when you go under, there's this part where you go under this like built-in structure that has like a tin roof. And if you put your hands up like you do sometimes, the freaking tin roof comes close to cutting your fingers off if you're a tall dude. Ooh. So that's one of those ones that was just poorly designed. They fixed that when someone's like, "Hey, like you."
Yeah, after the second decapitation or
right.
What do you call that? What do you call it when you lose all the fingers?
I don't know. That sounds wrong. But yeah. So all right. So yeah, the romantasy. Wait. So it's romantasy and it's fantasy, not sci-fi. Does that mean you have to have like trolls on the cover or like sexy wizards?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know what they're going to put on the cover because it's an anthology, but the stories in the anthology run the gamut from epic fantasy, which is what mine is, which is like, the traditional medieval world magic and wizards and monsters kind of a thing. But then there was some urban fantasy. William Allen Webb, he wrote an urban romantasy, and a couple of the others are more modernish. And then there's some other epic classic fantasies in there too. So I think it's good. It's a cool mix, I think.
I want a caveman romantasy. Oh, that's what's missing
Ooga
right now.
booga, head,
There you
death
go.
by snoo. I'm just saying, death by snoo. I've written romantic subplots. I don't know that I've written a straight up romance.
And see, that's why I thought I was qualified for this, because I have done the same. I've written romantic, like B plots to run through the course of a novel or two. And no, I did not know my stuff. No, as well as these people were like, oh no, you're coming in way too late with that. You gotta move this up to the front, and it's got to be in your face, and you got this beat and that beat. And I'm like, holy crap! It's just a 10,000 word short story. It was kind of crazy, but hey, I learned a lot.
There you go. All right. And so with that out of the way, we're going to do the religion questions. So are you both ready for this? It's just 3 of us today, so we got to carry the show.
Oh, Lord. The pressure is real.
All right. Mech Warrior, StarCraft or Overwatch?
Oh. Who's going first?
You are. You're talking right now.
I'm talking right now, so I'm going first. Okay, well, it's hands down, dude. It's Mech Warrior. Come on. Half of the inspiration for Gladius Leagues was Mech Warrior, specifically Mech Warrior 4 Mercenaries with the Solaris 7 campaign that you could play in the middle of everything. So, yeah, absolutely. And that was my game all through the 90s, man.
See, when you partied like it's 1999, you didn't lose any body parts.
No, just, the occasional, slab of armor and flying across the arena in an ejector pod once in a while. Yeah.
There you go. All right, Jesse.
As much as I love all of them, I got to go with Diablo. I was definitely a Diablo kid. My entire family, including my grandparents, beat Diablo 2.
No way.
It was big in my household. I went to a local comic shop. Shout out to the Dragon's Horde. It's called Challengers now, but and I was playing on LAN parties as a kid, and my grandmother saw the game and bought it for me, and then got so interested she started playing, and then my grandfather started playing. So literally, my whole house beat that game when I was like 9. It was great.
So were you giving your grandma tutorials on it and stuff, or did she teach you?
So believe it or not, she watched me play just hanging out. So she was great like that. So
that's cool. I got my dad into Mech Warrior 4. He had a blast. He had a
nice. But yeah, no, she just watched me play long enough to get a feel for it. She already knew how to use a regular computer, and it was on PC. So she just, once she saw me play for a minute, she got the system figured out, and it like I said, everybody in the house picked it up except for my great grandmother. But she had worked on the NASA computers that ate up a whole room and would not touch a modern day one. Like, she just wouldn't do it.
Odd.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with Mech Warrior because it's the only one I've played. So
it's fair.
I was not much of gaming. My mother never let us have like a gaming system growing up because we had a PC. Never mind, it was an old PC. It was like a Commodore 64. We could play Boulder's Dash. We could play Pitfall. Like, I was a mad jump.
I was about to say, my console was an Atari 2600, dude. I don't know about y'all.
My grandma had one of those. So I played Pitfall, Frogger, the Snake Jump one.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Now, we did get Frogger for the PC, and my kids played the crap out of that.
I had Frogger downloaded illegally onto my calculator in high school and middle school, the TI, whatever.
Nice.
And I still don't know how we did that. We did all kinds of weird hijacking of that little calculator.
Nice.
Drug Lord.
Yeah.
TI-83.
Yeah. We did that one too. I've forgotten about that one.
Was that like the high-end calculator of its day?
Yeah, it was the calculator standard if you didn't have an abacus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was required for some of my high school and college classes because we had to do like graph plots and things like that, and they wanted us to learn how to do them on the calculator. But you could program all kinds of cool games on it. The other thing we did was Unreal Tournament was old enough at that point; it fit on a thumb drive. So if we were in any of the computer labs, we had the first Unreal Tournament Game of the Year edition on a thumb drive, and we just jack in and run it off the thumb drive, and be playing with the
That was-
guys that were
yeah.
over in the language lab.
That's what was cool about MechWarrior 4 is after Microsoft stopped supporting it, the guys at underground pirate fly-by-night game mod group called MechTech, MEKTEK, they had been making supplement maps for the game for a while, and they figured out how to change the mechs and add mechs that weren't in the actual game but were from the BattleTech gaming system that it's based on, and put those in the game. And all they did was modify the code for the existing mechs, and all of a sudden you got a brand new mech that wasn't in the game before. And so eventually they had a full-blown version of MechWarrior 4 that fit on if you had a big enough thumb drive, it was like 5 or 6 gigs. It was big, but you could download the whole thing. It had all the maps, it had all the game, it had all the mechs, and the only thing is you had to have an XP Service Pack 1 machine to play it on, and because anything after that, even in emulation mode, you had a lot of problems.
So that's one of the things you look at some of those games, like we have fond memories of playing some of those low graphic games.
Crimson Skies was my other one from that era.
I went back and I bought one of those ones that plugs into your TV, but it's not like a real Atari, but it's like preloaded with all the things.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, the joystick with like 6 or 7 games on it.
Yeah, and I went to play that, and they did not hold up. I guess we've been spoiled by modernity, because I tried to play those with my kids. I'm like, yeah, these suck.
I had a couple of I had one, and in fact, hang on, I'm gonna go get it. It's right here. Don't go away.
Yeah, we talked about like Beast Wars and Reboot and stuff like that on other episodes, and like it's the graphics and everything. Trying to watch it now is painful. Like it hurts, because that was the original like cutting edge CGI. Like the whole show was CGI. But now, man, looking back now, seeing that in like 240p or whatever, like it's terrible.
I think part of it is it was never intended to be like so high def.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into that problem when you go to some of the black and white stuff, because stuff that was hidden in a black and white screen, now you see the string holding the spaceship or whatever.
Okay, I lied. My wife moved it, but I had a game. It was one of those handheld. It was shaped like Pac-Man and had a real like metal joystick on it. You plug it into your TV and you could play Pac-Man and Galaga and Space Invaders and Mappy. Dig Dug was on it, and they were all
there you go,
like classic arcade quality. I think my kids and I played on that for a number of years on a TV.
I actually bought it at Cracker Barrel, but I have a Space Invaders and a Galaxy R game that are like size the fist of the palm of your hand, and you can play with little tiny controllers, the actual little arcade console on those two classic games. It took me a while to figure out how to turn them off, because otherwise the noise gets you. So,
that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
The graphics on this are just like the arcade, even though it's tiny. Sound effects and the graphics are just like the arcade game for Galaga. And you can also play Galaxian on this one too.
Yeah, this is Galaxian, I think. It's hard to read because I'm colorblind. I got the Galax, but whatever comes after that is hard to read with the way they colored it.
Oh, okay.
But it's sort of along the lines of Space Invaders. But yeah, you go back to some of those games and they just don't hold up as well. So, but yeah, my mom never let us have those because we had the Commodore 64. So the first thing I did when I got back out of the Army and I moved out and I had my own apartment is I went and bought an Xbox, and then I turned on the heat and the AC at the same time. I opened all the doors and the windows, and I ran all of my sinks, and I called my parents. I'm like, guess what I'm doing? And so they're like, what? And I told them, and my dad starts laughing hysterically. He says, talk to me next month when you get the bill. He was right. The bill was nuts. Never did that again. And of course, the power was insane because I was running the heater and the AC. I'm lucky I didn't like start the house exploding or something.
I was about to say, man, you're lucky you didn't explode, dude.
But yeah, I was like all the things I'd never been allowed to do. And, I went straight from my mom and dad's, stepdad, but I went straight from their house to the Army. So it wasn't like I had a lot of freedom until I got out. And I did all the things we weren't supposed to do. And so that was when I really got into actual like console gaming was with the Xbox. So, which is obviously with some of my gaming experiences because I never got into the PC stuff. I know those PC people like PC Master Race, but I don't know. I need a controller.
I only played MechWarrior on the PC. I tried. My son loaded Crimson Skies, the Xbox version, for me on his Xbox, and he was like, "You'll love this, Dad. It's just like what you used to play." I was like, "Okay, cool." But he gave me that wonky controller with the thumb things, and I crashed and burned in 5 seconds. I can't do this. I need a joystick, dude. It's a joystick. No, it's not a joystick. You hold in your hand, and it's got a trigger on it. No, this is not a joystick, dude.
So yeah, I need the Xbox controllers, or I need an actual physical arcade because I have the retro effects just because my mother wouldn't let us have it. So I did go to the arcade growing up, and you get those where you're like actual like rage bait. You could pound on them because they were designed to last. And so I had those. Cabinet. Yeah, and then and of course you had I was king of the air hockey, and what's the one where you roll the ball?
Air hockey's awesome.
You try to get it up into the hole. Skeet? No, it's skeet shoot?
Ski ball.
Ski ball, yeah.
Ski ball.
That one too. So that I came into gaming experience late, and once you start something like going back and trying to learn it on a PC, it feels so clunky that I end up dying because I can never get the right.
We went to Chuck E. Cheese once with my kids, and they had you ever seen those like video games that have like a seat with a big plastic bubble around it that is like a fighter pilot game or something, and it raises
their turret or whatever.
Right, yeah. Awesome. So they had one of those hooked up to a MechWarrior 2 game. Nice. That was in a console, and all of the enemy mechs were just like paper thin armor. You could just walk through and blow them away. And I must have spent like 4 hours on that thing. My kids were like, "Dad, we want to get in the ball pit." Go in the ball pit then. I don't care. I'm killing mechs.
Yeah.
It was great and awful at the same time.
I had a parent who, or one of my friends' parents were divorced, so they compensated by buying his love. And so he had the whole like computer rig where it's got like the pilot console with the pedals, and he had the same rig set up for like if you're driving games. But he was one of those friends you have where they'll like let you watch when you hang out, but they never actually let you play their stuff. He was one of those.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I had a buddy of mine. When I was playing MechWarrior, we actually did league play, and it was MechWarrior leagues. I was on a team called Team Bonsai, and we were modeled after the Team Bonsai from the Bonsai Institute, the movie. And a friend of mine from that group had sent me and let me borrow. I actually still have them. So if you're out there, Fukushu, sorry, buddy, I still got him. But his Cytec flight stick, and it had the separate throttle that you use the other hand with, so I could speed up and slow down with one hand and just concentrate on movement and shooting with the other. It was pretty dope, actually. No foot pedals though. I wasn't that advanced.
Yeah, it's like bringing the arcade to you.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
And that was awesome. They had one of those ones where you get on a motorbike and you'd sit on it, and it would do like the leans and stuff. You couldn't build those in a modern American arcade because we've all gotten too fat, so we'd break the damn thing. But back in the day, like you used to be able to like get on and like do all the cool stuff. And
I don't think I'd try that MechWarrior bubble game now. I don't think I'd do that.
Yeah, although with places like Dave and Buster's, and I'm sure there's like equivalents elsewhere, like the adult nostalgia arcade places are coming up, so maybe
we had one in Millington for a while. There's this like abandoned home improvement store that they turned into like sections of it were like antiques, other sections were like the guys that sell all the crappy Pakistani ninja weapons, and then there was a whole section of the Jesse knows what I'm talking about. There's a whole section of the building that was nothing but vintage arcade games and pinball machines. And I miss that place. That place was cool. Oh, it's so cool.
If I could get one, what I'd really like is to get one that they could make to order and program. I want to get the Last Starfighter game.
Yes.
So, yes. It's basically like Space Invader, right? In a nutshell. With a little bit more graphics. So like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
You have been recruited.
But it's one of those ones where like my gaming experience is somewhat limited. And plus, I was in sports and chasing girls, so like I was busy.
Right. I had a friend he'd never played a video game in his life. And we took him to the local arcade. This is back in the 80s in the mall. And they had a game there called Afterburner, which was a force feedback, one of the first force feedback games.
It was based on like the Top Gun popularity.
Yeah. You're flying a Tomcat. And he was getting his butt waxed by the enemy really bad and he's a massive Star Trek nerd. You should know this about him. And I was like, hey, Kev, did you not see the name of the ship you're defending? It was the Enterprise. And from that moment on, he killed everything that came his way. I don't know what it was. I'd never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it before or since, but he broke the high score on that game. I don't think anybody ever beat it until they closed that arcade down.
Wait, so he was a Star Wars fan, but he went nuts to
No, Star Trek. Did I say Star Wars? I meant Star Trek. He was a Trek.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Total Trek fanatic. He was a member of the local Star Trek fan club, had the uniform, everything.
Cool. Yeah, it was it's a interesting time because like gaming was more communal. Now you've got the online with like the LAN and the over the whatever, but it's not the same as standing next to someone in like real space.
Not even close.
And when we trash talk, then there was always that undercurrent, like this dude might actually punch me in the face.
Yeah, and you set your quarter up there. I got the next game. Then the guy plays for 3 hours, and you hate him
because he wouldn't die. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, he just wouldn't die.
Like, or they get bored and they've like already beat the high score. I'm like, who wants to finish this for me? I'm like, all right, you jerkwad. We know you're bragging.
Those guys get beat up in the alley behind the arcade.
All right. So we do our religion question in pairs. So Halo, the Elder Scrolls franchise, which most popular is Skyrim, or the Fallout.
Ooh. I think I'd have to go with Fallout simply because out of those games, that's the only one I've seen played. I watched a guy go all the way through it once. It was one of the originals. I don't know how many there are because I'm, like I said, not a modern gamer. But this was the one. Was it always set in Vegas, or is that?
No. There were several of them.
Because this was the Vegas version. This was
that's
Fallout
new.
Vegas.
So New Vegas is what, and it was
New
fantastic.
Vegas, yeah. And I thought it was a really cool game. Nice post-apocalyptic feel and everything, and he was pretty good at it. So there wasn't a lot of downtime where he would have to replay scenario after scenario, like my other son with Halo not Halo. What's the one with the Portal? The Portal game.
Yeah, Portal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Portal. That's it. Yeah. I love that one though because of the smart aleck AI. She was great. I was actually rooting. Yeah, I was actually rooting for Gladys. But I'll have to go with Fallout.
Okay. What about you, Jesse?
I fell in love with Elder Scrolls late. I played Morrowind and Oblivion a little bit.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of like cheating and then just like screwing around. Halo, however, was a absolute staple in my like childhood. And you're talking about communal gaming. We would spend every weekend at somebody's house playing like multiple screens, multiple Xboxes hooked together, doing the LAN party thing with Halo, playing like 4-on-4. And one of my buddies even ended up for Halo 2. He was like ranked number 2 in the nation for single player for multi, like for playing just regular Slayer. That's what I'm looking for like free for all. And so we got stupid good, like we because we were all playing with him and like we could keep up. So we got really stupid good at it. We played it all through high school into early college. I loved Halo. That's why I wrote Children of Fire for Contested Landing. Was I wanted to do Drop Troopers so bad because of the ODSTs, like, and just that concept of just slamming feet first into the dirt and popping out right on the enemy was just stuck in my head.
My experience with Halo was, Jesse, red versus blue.
Yes.
That was the most entertaining video game oriented thing I'd ever had the pleasure to witness. It was fantastic.
I'm suppressing my Sarge impressions to not torture these poor people that are actually going to watch this.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I have seen Red versus Blue, and it was iconic in its day. So I don't know. I'm gonna go all of them for different reasons. Fallout, because I just love the post-apoc and I just like wander around shooting things. I never remember to go back to the main quest. I just, randomly hunt and kill and do the cool things. And I really like to do some of the odd guns, like where you can make the one that shoots just the trash at people. That's one of my favorites. It's not effective, but it's just cool. I like the Mr. Handy robot that follows you around and like just talks snarky to you.
Yep.
And every time I pass a down car, I shoot it in the rear and I watch the nuclear explosion from its fusion engine, just because why not? So I love Fallout, but Skyrim and Elder Scrolls in general. I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion. I played the one set in the Imperial capital. What was that one called? I'm drawing a blank on it, but I played that one and then Skyrim. I've got way too many hours into that franchise. I can tell you in Skyrim, I can judge your character by whether you side with the Nords or the Empire. I'm just saying, the Vikings or the Romans, essentially. The Vikings get religious freedom, but the Romans build one hell of a road system. And if they had trains, they would run on time. So I love that franchise as well. But Halo was the first one I played. When I got my first Xbox, I got Halo 1. And then when I was in the barracks, we would all play. I never owned the system. I just borrow other people's. But the sergeant would let us, because this is when I was still at PFC, they would let us do it so long as, we would take exercise breaks if we were to have downtime. So we'd do like a open arena type deal, then would run into the middle of the barracks and we'd all have to do push-ups and then run back. And so the trick was to get proper push-ups because they had to count and then get back before everyone else so you could start camping somewhere to start sniping them and listen to them hate you. Some of the best PT scores came from the people that played that LAN party every weekend. Because you got to get
works, I guess.
You had to get good push-ups and sit-ups to get it to count, but you also had to do it fast enough to get back. And the trick to the PT test was just get in and get out, because the longer you drag it out, the more tired you get, the more sloppy you get. So get as many as you can, as quick as you can on the good ones while you're not tired. So this sort of prepped for that. And I had so many hours. And I spent some time confined to the barracks because, I used to go out and maybe I drank a little bit too much. I'm not saying it was a problem, but maybe it got me demoted twice. So, this was my sober period. So I'm going to go with all of the above on this one. And what about you, dear listener? You should weigh in the comments and tell us what you think, what your game passion was. Nostalgia works too. We're totally cool with all of it. So do you guys explore the deep lore in the games you play? I know I do. I'll read all the game books and the manuals.
I've read almost every BattleTech novel written. I wrote BattleTech fanfic and tried to get that published. It was playing in the Mech Warrior leagues. You could play it straight as I'm just a player, or you could actually become a persona. And so everybody at Team Bonsai had kind of a character that they played. So BattleTech lore was just, I was so into it, man. And then they started changing it. I got mad because, one of the reasons we were Team Bonsai was because in the original source book, there was, in the Mech Warrior source book for the tabletop game, there was mention of a Team Bonsai, a Dr. B. Bonsai and his Hong Kong Cavaliers, who are a mercenary group who did work for the Inner Sphere House Davion. And that's why we felt so comfortable naming ourselves that. And then they took that out of later versions of the source material. And so it became non-canon. Oh, we were pissed. We were mad. But so, yeah, BattleTech lore is great. That's why I love Tex Talks BattleTech. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his YouTube channel. There's a guy called Tex, the Long Pants Legion. And he does deep dives into the lore of the BattleTech universe. We're talking 2-hour-long videos with all kinds of Inner Sphere history and the clan invasions, and it's just awesome stuff, man.
I watched some videos of guys who break down the lore for the Fallout franchise. I get it. But yeah, not only did I read all of the lore outside of the game in Fallout, when you get to those terminals, I would read the entries, all of them, just because I wanted to know all the things. And then sometimes when you get books in some of these games with the TTRPGs, like you could pick them up and read. I'd read the books.
Yep.
So I know that was like most people didn't, but I would read the books because I loved all of the little details they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
So even some of the books in like Skyrim where you'd find burnt books and you might only get 1 or 2 pages you could read, I'd still read it because it was just cool. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes with being, there's a kind of a common thing when you talk about any people that are really heavy into like sci-fi and fantasy or the writers or anything like that. I think we all had at least some adventure with fan fiction and some kind of like gaming or tabletop kind of deal that had some deep storytelling behind it. So yeah, I mean, from D&D to the Skyrim world to even Morrowind, I didn't do any of the main quests like you said. I spent all the time walking around trying to get powerful and find cool stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge lore nerd. I often do I'm the big one for me is Warhammer 40K. I'll sit down and watch a 2-hour Arch video on the Siege of Varax, and there's 15 of them covering a war that lasted 200 years that had all kinds of crazy stuff happen and things like that. I love that stuff. I try not to do it in my own works just because it's a lot. But eventually, at some point, like I'll take my own crack at that too. So.
Yeah, I enjoy all of that because that's kind of what makes it fun, though. I never wrote fanfic, but like I definitely, if I really liked a story, when the story was over, I would keep the plot going in my head and I just self-insert. That's how I knew it was a story. It was a good one. So yeah, definitely, I'm with you on that one. It's part of the fun. But all right, so. Last but certainly not least on the religion questions, because they sponsor us. We are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and what do you drink when you're gaming? Michael.
Oh, well, back in the day, when I was doing Mech Warrior, it was Mountain Dew and then later Mountain Dew Amp. You guys remember Amp?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved Amp so much. I gave one of my main characters in Galaxy's Most Wanted an Amp addiction. So came by that honest enough. So yeah, that was my game fuel of choice. And that was way before like the official Mountain Dew Gamer Fuel and all these things that came out. So that was it for me, man. Amp.
I always, when I would watch my friends game back in the day, it was Surge. But I've tried like after that, I went back and tried it later, and that stuff was nasty.
It was pretty gross. It was a very poor Mountain Dew imitation.
Yeah, I think but the commercials were freaking hilarious.
The commercials were great. The promotional CD had some fantastic music on it. I don't know if you guys, Jesse, do you remember they sent out a CD in the mail to promote Surge, and it was Feed the Rush was the name of the disc. And it had songs by Jimmy Eat World, Ben Folds 5, and these guys were brand new to the music scene. Skeleton Key was on there. The Hazies were on there with a song called Dancing at 7, which I still have. That's from the album Vinny Smoking in the Big Room. The Hazies. And man, it's just cool stuff. And so that was the whole Surge scene was cool. The drink itself, garbage. Couldn't stand it. The scene surrounding it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy over their commercials and stuff like that because it was making like, back in the 90s and 2000s, everybody, that was the whole like tip or gore and them trying to put the parental advisories on and everything like that. And everybody was pearl clutching left and right. And there was a ton of pearl clutching over the like Surge commercials and you're gonna make our kids want to do motocross biking
and then in the same decade MXPX does a Pepsi commercial.
Yeah. Yes. It was a wild time. But yeah, no, I definitely remember all that. That was interesting days.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jay.
I would say it definitely was. It was a weird time to deal with pop culture because they couldn't figure out which way was up as far as it went. Like they were offended by everything, but they didn't know exactly what they were offended by sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, they would also read stuff into, I mean, they would take a perfectly innocent lyric and just read all kinds of dark intent into it. And, you know, it was amusing to watch especially the PMRC hearings in Congress, where Tipper Gore brings Dee Snider in and he just lays out the whole place with a very well constructed and very articulate speech, which you can still find on YouTube to this day. Dee Snider just blasted him with both barrels, and it was so fun to watch.
All right. Well, this is a moment we're going to pause and we're going to shamelessly show for the man, and then we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about the series. So first, that beautiful bean footage.
Humanity will be free, no matter the cost. Deep in the Guatemalan jungle, buried beneath a forgotten Mayan pyramid, an earth-shattering secret sits, waiting. Its discovery will rip apart the illusion that humanity is alone in the universe. Engaged in a life-and-death struggle for the future of mankind, Harry Rogers and Jess Cook are forced to protect this secret from the most despicable foes imaginable. They must race across the globe to complete Liberty Station, the first true interplanetary ship. Only then can they search for the shocking truth behind what they found. They have no room for error, because failure means death for them and subjugation for everyone else. Presenting Liberty Station, Book 1 of Humanity Unlimited, written by Terry Mixon. Purchase your copy on Amazon and learn more about the author and his works at terrymixon.com.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. Since I got you already paused watching a little bit of a video, we're going to let you see we're here obviously to talk about Arcane, which is a League of Legends Netflix show. I am going to play the trailer real quick, and then we're going to jump in and talk about the show.
Woo!
When I was a kid, me and my sister, we played a game where we pretended to chase monsters away. I'd say, no monster's gonna get you when I'm here. Then a real monster showed up. I have to find her.
The world's growing smaller every day. Up there on the surface, the topsiders are leaving the undercity further behind.
I believe I've discovered something incredible. A way to harness magic through science.
You don't understand what's at stake.
Power doesn't come to those who are born strongest. It comes to those who will do anything to achieve it. Imagining yourself a hero? Then what are you waiting for?
More lives may be lost. The Undercity cannot be controlled.
Then we have to go in by force.
What have you done with my sister?
I'll give her your regards.
This cycle of violence will never stop. She's too far gone.
I have to try.
You've got a good heart. Don't ever lose it. Protect the family.
Are we still sisters?
Nothing is ever going to change that.
All right, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude and for watching the trailer. So first off, does the trailer make you want to watch it if you hadn't already?
I mean, I was amped.
Yeah.
I was amped when I played League. I played League. By the time Arcane came around, I had not played League in some time. But when I saw the quality of the animation, the way that they were handling the characters, I was extremely excited. And I think that the trailer holds up to the series.
I'd never played League. So my first experience with it was the show. And the only reason I checked out at all was based on recommendations from some of my fellow Chris Kennedy authors. They were like, oh yeah, you got to check this out. Go watch season 1 because season 2 is about to drop. And so I caught season 1 and I was really glad I hadn't watched season 1 before season 2 was ready to drop, because I'd have been mad, because I hate cliffhangers. You will not believe how much I hate cliffhangers, man. And so when season 1 ended, I was just like, oh no, see, I would not have survived the wait for season 2. I would have been mad. But I will say that now that I've seen both seasons, that trailer's got footage from both seasons mixed in it. When did that trailer drop?
Before the first season dropped.
Seriously?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Because there was quite a gap between season 1 and season 2 being released, wasn't there?
Yeah, 2021 for season 1 and 2023 for season 2.
Yeah, so a couple of years worth of a gap there. And interesting to me that they had footage from both seasons in that trailer. I never saw that trailer because I just went straight into the show based on recommendations. But I will agree with Jesse that the animation style, the art style itself, I don't know how close that was to the game, but the art style of the show was phenomenal.
Yes.
It was a little bit steampunk, a little bit cyberpunk, a little bit Spidey in the multiverse. And it was just something I hadn't seen quite done that way before. And even though they had Timu Chris Pine as one of the main characters, come on, he looks like Chris Pine. Let's be honest. The guy the science kid that discovers a way to use magic through science.
Jace.
He's Chris Pine. But the characters themselves had really what, took you that long to get that?
No, it's just the dedication is what pleased me.
But I will say that the backstory that they gave all the characters and the fleshing out of what were just video game characters, right? That you didn't have much info on playing the game, I'm guessing. Can you confirm that?
That's the thing with League, is that League of Legends is all about the champions. And so you get like maybe a short story, maybe a couple paragraphs at first when the champions come out. And then over time, you can actually go pull up League in the League website, and you can go pull up like short stories on almost every champion at this point. They fleshed it out so incredibly well. The world, the lore, like the lore question we had earlier is very on point, because the deep lore behind this. So we see Piltover and Zon in Arcane. That's our setting. And then we have characters that come in from Noxus. But there's also Demacia, there's Bilgewater, which is like a pirate town. There's whole nations, there's continents that we have not explored that are being teased. Yeah. And there's 150 something champions at least. So we have 10 of them from Arcane, and there's all those other champions that they can pull from. But they did a fantastic job of taking what we already knew. Arcane was watching champions that we already knew where they ended head towards that end for the most part. They messed with Victor some. Jace is a lot more of a jackass in the game. He sounds super cocky. Everyone hates him. And he's, I'm here to save the day, is how Jace is, and he's bad
I
Superman.
wasn't crazy about him in the show. To be honest.
Oh no, and that's fair, but like it's much worse. His lines and stuff in the video game were terrible. Anyway, but no, that's the world is so rich. I wish they'd do more novels. I wish somebody would pay me to write one, because there's some characters in there that I love and would love to be able to play with.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I do gotta say though that even though season 1 ended on such a cliffhanger, season 2 was just confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, the first episode picked up where the last episode of season 1 ended. Okay, fair enough. And then things got really strange, and that's saying something for this show. Because you got a show that's mixing science, and magic, and it's just this whole multi. Are we gonna? Nobody's gonna get mad for spoilers, right? Because we can.
No, but first, so obviously the series is called Arcane. Some places alternately listed as Arcane League of Legends, because it's a show set in the game world. The directors were Pascal Charoux, Arnaud Delord, and Bart Mannery. I'm probably butchering their pronunciations, but those are the 3 directors for both seasons. The budget cost $250 million to make the 2 seasons. Because it's a subscription model, there is no data on how much it earned, because, I mean, people are getting the subscription whether they watch that show or not.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to judge.
And Netflix doesn't release its viewer numbers.
Yeah, per episode or per. I mean, I'm sure they know what people are watching, what series.
Oh, I'm sure they know, but they're not telling us. I mean, that we've got insider information now available to us that we know from, like, all the subscription services. They have the numbers on who watched the whole episode, who dropped out after the first 5 minutes, who dropped out after a certain scene they didn't like. Disney Plus had all that information, and some of their insiders were like leaking it. We're fully aware that Netflix knows whether it was successful or not, but I tend to think it was, though. I mean, it was well written, it was well done. Even though it got confusing in season 2 with the whole multiverse angle, that threw me for a total loop. I had no clue what was going on.
Hold on. The episodes were between 40 and 50 minutes long, and there were 18 total episodes between the 2 seasons. The original release date, like we said, was November 6, 2021 for season 1. And then season 2 launched on November 23rd, 2024. So there was that 3-year gap when it launched. And I heard about it from my niece, who was telling me about it. Of course, she hadn't heard about it in 2021. So she's like, it's a new thing in 2024, which is why we scheduled it when it came out back in November. And then it turns out it'd been hanging around for a while. So given that delay, I don't suspect they'll do a season 3, just based on that. And obviously it's distributed by Netflix. And the ad copy, according to Netflix, is based on a hit video game, League of Legends. Sisters Vi and Jinx clash in a conflict between 2 cities that may force them apart forever. Dun, dun, dun. As far as ad copy goes, that really sucks. I mean, it would not make me want to watch that, but I mean, the graphics were cool, so we're going to forgive them.
No, the ad copy really should have focused on the class struggle, because you had that classic, got the people living above the 1%, living off the backs of the 90% or the 99%, because everybody in the Undercity was basically working the crap jobs that allowed the people in the Overcity to be wealthy and lay around. So of course there's going to be that class tension.
It was very much let them eat cake, and I was rooting for the under people to like burn it to the ground.
Yeah, and I think pretty much everybody was, because from the upper city people, there weren't very many of them that were sympathetic at all to the lower caste. You had the corrupt cops, you had the council, are all a bunch of snoots. Very easy to not like those people. Except for with a couple of exceptions, obviously, like the short furry wizard dude. He was cool, and he had a heart. Yeah. What?
Is he a playable character?
Yeah. So Hemmerdinger is like a scientist, just like he is. And so Hemmerdinger's fun because he builds turrets. So you're running around on the map, and he like throws wrenches at people. That's his like main attack. But then
Great.
but then eventually you have these different abilities, and eventually you'll be able to make your turrets, and the turrets will blast anything within a certain radius that is an enemy. And of course, his ultimate, he keeps talking. They all have voice lines, and you can hear your enemy voice lines sometimes. And he'll be like, that one seems smaller than on the diagram. And then eventually he gets his ultimate, and you press R on your keyboard, and all of a sudden he makes this turret that's like 3 times his size, and it starts blasting people. So yeah, it's Himberdinger. I jokingly call him Dinger Donger because he's got, he makes funny noises, and he's his name's weird, but yeah, he's one of the champions. Jinx is a champion, Vi's a champion, Jace is a champion, Caitlyn's a champion. They put Mel.
Jinx was Powder renamed. She renamed herself.
Yeah. Powder. She started out as Powder, as Vi's little sister, and she was kind of a hanger-on at first for their little gang who were trying to steal stuff from people in the city above. What was the father figure character that worked the
Xander?
Bar? Yeah, Xander.
Or no, you're right, Xander.
Yeah, and he was like their father figure. Kind of took them in after their parents were gone, and but then things go wrong, as they do, and the sisters are separated, and Powder takes on the name Jinx and really becomes a menace. She's psycho. She is literally psycho, man. And the animation around her that reflected that mental state was really well done. Her little flashbacks and toys talking to her and stuff is very cool.
So I just did a quick check. It was Vander, not Victor.
Yeah.
Victor's a different character in there.
Victor is the crippled guy who
who becomes a Hextech wizard. Yeah. So Victor was a champion as well, and that one's particularly wild because if you see Victor in the game before this series comes out, Victor is very much like you see him at the end of the series, covered in metal and everything like that. So we were all trying to figure out as like fans of the game, like how is this weird dude with a cane who's just a scientist, how is he going to become this very maniacal? He was like a Mechanicus from 40K, if anybody's been there, where it's like the flesh is disgusting and weak. Like that he was that kind of guy. He was like, it's going to be this glorious revolution of magic and steel, and nobody's going to be made of flesh anymore. And so he had that very Adeptus Mechanicus feel to him, and so seeing them make that transformation was really cool.
But yeah, it was I like the animation. I like the way they set the tension up. It didn't like, it was definitely, going into this, I would have been like, oh, it's gonna be kid like because it's cartoons, but this was definitely adult animation. It earned that hashtag.
Just on the violence aspect alone.
Yeah, but watching the fights in slow motion, it was almost like the pow pew whatever you get from the old Batman, but in slow motion, like you get it on a comic, but cooler. Yeah. Although I will say, I kept expecting people's teeth to get knocked out with all the face hits, but it was just a little bit of blood or spit or whatever. Like, no, brother, he just lost his teeth.
Yeah.
She just punched him in the face with a metal boxing glove. Like, dude's his jaw's broken.
Right. Yeah. He's eating soup for the rest of his life.
Right.
Through a straw.
So to the series itself, what did you guys think of the way they portrayed the characters? I thought they did an amazing job at making each one distinct in like giving them character, even bit characters like Little Man, the guy at the shop, the little black kid with the white hair.
Echo?
I don't know. Echo, yeah, I thought they called him Little Man.
Echo. Maybe I'm missing the character, but
maybe I am too. Because to me, Echo was the leader of the resistance.
Yeah, but in the first season, he starts off small, just like Jinx and Powder did.
Right? Yeah, he was about Powder's age. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I like the character though. So I mean, the way they set the characters up, they gave everybody personality and backstory. And it definitely felt like that was there, even if they didn't show it all on the screen. Sometimes with just the little mannerisms. like with Milo, I think was the one that was angry all the time, the skinny of the 4 kids.
Yeah, Milo.
And then the big dude who seemed like he was happy-go-lucky, but was one hell of a bruiser, like beating the crap out of everyone when they.
Yeah, he was the tank. Yeah.
And it was just like I did not expect them to take him off the playing board so early in.
And there were the things in it that they did that I never quite figured out. Things that, like the guy with the cyber eye. I don't know why I'm blanking on everybody's names all of a sudden. Yeah, Silco. Like, why did he have to poke his eye with that knife every once in a while? It was just bizarre.
It was a drug. It was a drug thing. It was something to do, and that's the cool thing about Zon, and they work all this stuff in from the game. And this will answer kind of JR's question on my opinion too, is because it was champion focused in the game, they made it character focused in the stories, and that was the perfect move. Because that's why everyone was invested. If they were coming, that audience was coming over. I love Jinx in the game. She's so fun to play. Her skills and everything like that are what you see in the show. She's got Pow Pow, which is the minigun, Fishbones, which is the rocket launcher, her Zap gun. Those are all things that she can do. The little bomb grenades she makes, she throws them out as traps in the game, and people get stuck in them. And then her ultimate is that giant rocket that she uses at the end of season 1. Like, that was her kit from the game, period. Vi's the same way, those big, huge gauntlets. So they did a fantastic job with that. But with Silco, it was... Zon is a mad scientist's dream. There's no rules down there for the people that are experimenting with chemicals and crazy alchemy and everything like that. Biotech, yeah. And so that's the whole thing, is there's multiple, like, they never named Singe, but that's basically who he was another one of the champions is like just obsessed with this experimentation, and he literally uses chemical gas as a weapon incessantly.
Was he the one that had the creature in the tank?
Yeah.
Silco went to visit. Okay, that's him. Okay, I thought that's
yeah.
him.
So and so there's that was what that was supposed to be. Is he was, and that's why Jinx had to do it for him at one point. Is he was like taking some kind of biochemical injection to make sure his eye kept working.
Right. And then of course he was running a drug empire down there too. Yeah.
Yeah, and him and Vander are 100% original characters. They did not have a basis in the game beforehand. And that was really
I didn't know. That's cool.
Yeah,
and I like Vander's arc. So they did the resistance. They tried to overthrow the topsiders in Pitlow and Pitlow. How do we say that?
Piltover.
They try to overthrow. They get basically their clock clean because the superior numbers lose out to superior tech. And of course these people are somewhat sickly. I mean, you can see that hinted at with the topsiders when the enforcers come down. They're wearing the masks to breathe, which tells you that
there's a lot of bad environmental problems.
And in fact, that's why Silco had some of his issues, is because when he had the open cut, when his brother-in-arms kills him to allow them to make peace, or tries to anyway, and he's drowning him in the water, that open cut gets infected by the sludge that's in the water because everything was so dirty. And so like they end up winning, and that backstory kind of caused him to do a 180 because he wanted peace, because he felt guilty about the people he lost, to include Jinx and Vi's mom and dad. And I thought that was expertly done, the way they kind of created that tension. But then everyone else, like, not seeing that, it's like, no, we want to go back and fight it again. But of course, it's everyone that was too young to have been there at the fight the first time, right? That suddenly they're all piss and vinegar and they want to try again. And he's like, look, bro, it's not what you think.
Yeah, but the political gaming that was going on was very good too. It reminded me a lot of, speaking of lore from games, it reminded me a lot of the successor houses from BattleTech, where you had House Lau and House Davion and House Steiner, and they're all scheming against each other, and they've got people visiting each other's courts and scheming in the background, and it all ends up as a big mech battle somewhere. You had a lot of that going on here with the visitor lady from I can't remember the name of the country she came from, but
Noxus.
she comes in and Noxus, right? She comes in and starts causing trouble because her daughter's on the council, and you don't know it's her daughter until it's suddenly revealed. And it's like, what? So yeah, the whole thing, all the political scheming was really well done, but it wasn't overdone, and that was the thing. It wasn't. Some shows will take that way too far, and it just becomes a Game of Thrones kind of. Everybody's scheming against everybody. You don't like anyone. This didn't do that. You had people that you really kind of wanted to root for, and also people that you really wanted to see die. So I think they played that just right.
I wanted Vander to live.
I really did too. Well, you did kind of for a while anyway.
Well, and so that's funny is they took a character that wasn't a champion and made him a champion. So Warwick was the chemical werewolf that had always, well, I won't say always, but had been in the game for a very long time. And I knew when they saw Vander get dosed with whatever nonsense that was, he would either be one of two characters. He would either be Warwick or Dr. Mundo, who's like a crazy mad Jekyll and Hyde mad scientist that's hopped up on like super steroids. So I knew he was going to end up being one of those two. So, and that was cool.
Yeah, it's not. I don't even know anything about the game or the lore, but from what you're telling me, they went hardcore into honoring the lore, which is what you want when you get an adaptation of anything.
Oh, and yeah, absolutely.
When the creators don't respect or like the fans or the source material, it generally shows, and you end up with nobody happy.
There was a brief-lived, thank God, BattleTech or MechWarrior animated series that was set right around the time of the clan invasion, and it was okay, except that they tried to mix computer animation with traditional animation, and that was kind of awful. But then the series itself, they put stuff in that just didn't make any sense for the BattleTech universe, and all the people that were actually into it were like, "Oh, this is so friggin' stupid. I'm not watching this." So you always walk in that fine line, and if you don't respect the source material, the fans will let you know. Back then, people would listen and go, "Yeah, this isn't working out. We're just going to cancel it." Nowadays, they just blame the fans for being toxic.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where having written in other people's universe, the trick is you don't want to take and play with any of the characters that are so big that no matter what you do, because you're not the original creator, they're going to say you did it wrong. So you leave the big main characters alone. You make your own characters and slide them into the universe, and you shine light into the dark corners, so that way you're expanding the lore without stepping on toes, and they're willing to go with you, generally speaking, when you approach it that way.
I mean, they did that with Star Trek for a long time. There was a slew of novels that were written back in the day featuring the original crew, the Enterprise, and then, of course, Next Generation. And a lot of them were very, very well done. But there was only so much you could do with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy because, you couldn't really make major changes to those characters because they're the major characters, right? Just like you said. So this one lady introduced a whole crew of new cadet graduates from Starfleet Academy, one of whom was a captaincy candidate. And the first novel she appeared in was called Dreadnought. And through a series of novels, she's taken under Kirk's wing. He kind of mentors her, and she also has a Vulcan friend. And so the parallels were there, but it was a way to work characters in that were compelling, and you could do stuff to that you couldn't do to the main characters. BattleTech had the same issues. You can't kill off Hans Davion, but you can kill off people that he's friends with and have that kind of attention going. So it's that whole tertiary character that makes a difference, but isn't mainline enough to make you leave them alone.
And that's the trick, is you've got to find the throwaway lines. Like my whole story, The Reservist, was bet on one line about list of atrocities by the MCR. And I grabbed one of them and I used that name to write a book. you can do that with any franchise. There's always, like, authors and creators always leave hooks. Sometimes they even forget they're there and they move on, because you always want to have something you could come back to, whether they're doing it consciously or not. And so if you're going to play in other people's universes, you play with those hooks. And that's very much, it felt like kind of the approach they took when they did this. I didn't get the impression that they weren't enjoying the source material. So,
and not only that, but there's fan service in here, and it's not a traditional anime fan service with, like, stuff like that. It's
you know where you're going with that. Just move on.
Yeah, in the voice lines, in the game when you play Jinx and Vi. Jinx and Vi say things that made you wonder, and I'm talking about for like 2 years. Everybody was wondering, like, who is whose sister? Because Jinx would say stuff like, "Oh, you think I'm crazy? You should see my sister." Like, but Jinx had no listed sister in the Champions. Like, there was never anything listed there, and so they teased that whole thing up. And then Caitlyn and Vi's relationship. They're partners, and, like, Caitlin's the sheriff and Vi's a deputy, and, like, she's part of the whole Piltover police force or whatever. But fans put them in a relationship so much they wrote it into the story. They like, and what's cool is they took it, and it wasn't like this bad throwaway, like, oh, we're gonna make it happen no matter what. No, they crafted the story around these things and made it good, and that was awesome.
Like, when I saw that,
fans shipped them so hard, they kind of had to.
Yeah. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, here we go again. Hollywood's doing Hollywood, and they're forcing it even when it doesn't go, because I'm so jaded about all those, cheap, box checking that they do without it fitting into the story. And you were like, yeah, no, JR, that's actually in the story. I'm like, oh, sweet. That, because it wasn't like it was badly written. It just, you're so jaded on why they put what they put in there, that it's nice to know that was a fan service.
No, that was literally fan service.
Which I think is cool. Like, I think you should respect the fans of the art you create, right? Like,
they should put Team Bonsai back in MechWarrior.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll get on that. I'll call somebody. We'll call somebody.
Strongly worded letter.
Everybody, Piranha Games, send a strongly worded letter.
Okay. So we've talked about the animation style and the characters. What did you think about the world building that they did? As far as, like, obviously they kept true to the game, but I mean more like the way they showed the city of Piltover and the other set locations.
Yeah, I dug it because I didn't know anything about the game.
Me either.
So the world building to me felt very natural. It felt very cohesive. It didn't feel like a bunch of crap slapdashed on top of each other. And it was some classic stuff too. I mean, the class struggle that's a classic. Golly, that trope goes all the way back to Charles Dickens and before, Victor Hugo, all of the classic writers, even Mark Twain hit upon it with The Prince and the Pauper, right? So, I mean, you've got some really classic themes being played out in this cyber/steampunk environment, which was just icing for me because I love cyberpunk and steampunk. And to see both of them kind of combined was just absolutely dope. But to see that the magic aspect of it was being downplayed because the mages caused problems in the past, and so they're kind of like outlawed or whatever. And now you got a guy who's playing with magic, trying to make it work through science, and that's bad. So all of those tropes fit together really nicely. They dovetailed well.
Yeah, I love the world building. I love Zaun specifically. Don't get me wrong, Piltover's cool, Hex Tech is cool, but that deep dark undercity where it's Rapture and it's everybody's in. We've got the street gangs, and it makes it feel like you said, both cyber and.
Did you get the feeling that it was like you took South Central LA and dumped it into 1800s London?
Yeah. It felt like Night City and Rapture to me. Rapture from BioShock and Night City from Cyberpunk. But no, that's absolutely it's and that's what's really cool about the world of League is that all of those places exist in this one world. They call it Runeterra, and Runeterra has a late 1800s pirate town that is Tortuga. It's like where all these but it also there's old Legends of the Bayou, and there's a card player that's like Gambit from, they call him Twisted Fate, and he like blows cards up, and there's all these like crazy characters. They're all a part of that too, and they took that feel and injected it in with all the different characters and where they come from, and again, with a character based story, your characters build the world for you, and I think it was a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're trying to do better at staying on our hour mark. I don't know how much trying. I don't know how much deeper we can go without spoiling the heck out of it. And I don't want to do that. So overall, what were your thoughts? Like, as me, someone coming out has never played the game, probably never will. I like the series. I liked the art. I like the story. I'm not to season 2 yet because I just started today and I binge watched the first 5 episodes and I'm like, oh, drooling, but I wanted more. I'll be curious my take on season 2 now that I know what to expect, but I definitely thought it was well done. So I'm a fan, and I didn't know anything else but the video, like the series going in, and it stood on its own, which, you know, is a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's nice to know that they honored the lore, but I think even had they not, as its own standalone thing, it works. Like it doesn't require the crutch of the game for it to work, which.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say it stands
well.
on its own. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed there probably won't be a season 3 because I think there's a lot more story to tell in that world.
Yes.
So there's not going to there. So the Arcane in and of itself is only 2 seasons. There is extreme speculation and a little bit of hint dropping that this is not the last League show. And the last trailer, that they do a trailer for every season. The last trailer for the new season was done in the art style of Arcane and took more champions from a different part of the world and had them interacting, talking, like very much like it was like a teaser for the show as much as for the season. So we get to see lots of new like characters that haven't been done in that art style yet that are being moved over. So I don't think we're going to get Arcane season 3, but I do think at some point we're going to get the next piece of Runeterra. We're going to get the next piece of the world. And there's all kinds of other cool characters like Caitlyn that got teased. That she's part of Noxus, and she's like a princess assassin, really cool character. And so
I'm down for it. Let's go.
The only worry is there was a big thing in the news recently that technically Arcane didn't make money. It didn't make money for the parent company, for Riot. Because like we said, it's the subscription model. And they were kind of assuming that with a hit show, it would boost their sales of things like skins and stuff in the game. And the thing is that it doesn't seem to have really done that. So it wasn't really.
The game itself was kind of passe by the time the show came out, right?
Well, so yes and no, because it's an esport. So literally, there's a professional league, and so it's still extremely popular. Because of that, because it's got this pro league and everybody's trying to be a superstar. That's kind of the struggle, is a lot of people wash in and out because you start playing it and you get way too serious and then you get your feelings hurt. It's like playing Counter-Strike. Is Counter-Strike like not the thing anymore? No, absolutely not. But do people still play Counter-Strike and make $200,000 or $300,000 a year playing it? Yes. So it's got its own problems as far as the game is concerned, but I do believe we'll see more in the world in that animation style, that they will do more shows because they'll find a better way to monetize it for the parent company and make it happen.
Okay. Any closing thoughts from the two of you?
No, I think you should definitely finish watching it. It's worth the watch. Even if you don't know anything about the game like you didn't and I didn't going in, it's just from a story building aspect and a character driven story aspect, it's worth the watch. Don't let anybody talk you out of it because they think it's got naughty bits in it, because it doesn't. Everything's pretty organic and pretty tame, really. I think there's more violence than anything else that would concern me about a younger viewer. I mean, it's definitely like violence aspect, it's definitely PG-13. But I don't think I don't think anybody should shy away from it based on that. Very, very well done, character-driven story.
Yep. Season 1's like a 9.5, and season 2's like a 8. Call it a 7.5. Sure. Either way.
Yeah. More, that's fair. That's fair. I'll go with 7.5.
I'm going to show some of the art while you guys were talking from the show.
Yeah, I'll go with 7.5 for season 2, simply because there were aspects of season 2 that were confusing to me. Just stuff they just sprung on you, and it was like, what? Wait, what?
It was rushed. Yeah, it needed more time.
And it felt a little rushed, and so from that particular writing aspect, I was a little disappointed, because it was like, why are you trying to cram all this into these few episodes here? Maybe, I don't know. Do you think they knew they weren't going to get a third season and they were trying to get as much done as I don't know.
Yeah, I think the plan was to only do the 2. And that's because, like you just noticed, like, oh, hey, some of that footage was actually like season 2. Like,
yeah,
I think that there was a plan in place, and maybe just trying to figure out some of the more details. They just ended up not having the time that they wanted. And $250 million is a hell of a budget. Like, that's
a big budget.
That's a lot of movie.
That's a Marvel movie. Yeah, that's yeah.
That's 2.5 regular
level
movies.
Budgeting right there. But yeah, exactly. Or 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. Either way.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
All right. So
it's worth it.
So we loved it. We'll call that a win. This is the part where I remind you, dear listener, to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, and that is equally true of films, comics, all the things. When you consume the art, if they allow you to review it, please do. It really does help. And with that, Michael, what are you working on at the moment? This is going to air at the end of the month, so keep that in mind. Okay. Future you is going to be working on what?
Future me is going to be gleefully watching the release of Gladius League's Book 2, Bound and Determined, and also continuing to work on finishing Sarcom Book 1 with Peter Stanley, and hopefully getting started on Book 2. He's working on Book 2 now. I'm finishing up Book 1, and we're building this universe. Sarcom is it's basically a space navy, kind of an epic story along the lines of Honor Harrington. Only we wanted to focus on Space Coast Guard, like coasties, who get caught up in a shooting war between humanity and our first contact with an alien species. So a lot of action, a lot of space battles, and a little political intrigue here and there, and corporate takeovers, and all the good things in life. So that's what we're working on.
Okay. And what about you, Jesse? What are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on my first full-length novel, which is going to be the first novel that pairs with my big project right now, The Holy Diver in the Midnight Sea, which is the whole transdimensional, like transtemporal sea that connects all kinds of different worlds. So we're simultaneously, I'm working on the big novel, everybody else is doing the antho for me, and I'm going to try and have them so that they're kind of ready at similar times. So that's the big project right now. Of course, I got some little shorts and stuff like that. You got that Santa antho coming up that I'd like to try and pitch one in for, and some stuff like that. So really the short stories, they're taking the back seat, and I'm trying to get this novel and the big project cranked out.
Sounds like a plan. And where can we follow you if we want to check you out on the internets?
Well, you can find me at my website, michaellavoice.com. That has all the links to the social medias and, my merch store, where you can buy Gladius League and Galaxy's Most Wanted themed merchandise, to include hats and shirts and hoodies and mugs with the Gladius League's logo, and soon to come, the Warhawks logo from that same universe. That'll be fun. And you can also find links to my Substack, which I do a weekly blog where I just basically do brain droppings about whatever's bugging me that week. And then you can also see me on Twitx or Facebook, and occasionally Instagram.
Okay. And what about you there, Jesse?
Outlawauthor.com. will get you to everywhere else. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. What else? Substack. I think my Substack's really fun. I think Michael's Substack's really fun too.
His Substack is fun. You should check it out, definitely.
But that's that. My website will link you to all of those things. They're all some version of my name, Jesse James Fain or Outlaw Author. Twitter is Jesse James Books. And I'm on Facebook. It's my personal page. Feel free to add me. Come hang out. But you're going to get a much more unfiltered version of me, as I warn everybody every time.
The more fun version.
Okay, and you can find us, dear listener, dear viewer at home, at our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitters. We've got our website, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee, brand coffee, till it pours out of their eyeballs, people. And if you use the link in the show notes, code PODCASTGRUNTS, you get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. It is a actual company that roasts them in the continental United States. It is not a drop shipping operation, so it's quality product. It is my go-to gourmet coffee. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for coming on, Jesse, Michael. It's a blast. Go kill some aliens on that little game right there. And with that, I'm going to hit the end button. Wait for it. Stop cussing.